Hello, this is my oral presentation for Econ 101. The question I'm trying to tackle today is, would funding job programs for marginalized communities fuel economic growth? Throughout history, America has had systems to put people of color in the lower class communities, redlining being the most prominent example of this. This is a practice where neighborhoods or areas deemed not desirable or hazardous were denied financial assistance from banks or investments. The neighborhoods labeled as often had a majority of African American or Latino as its population. This began in the 1930s and continued legally until the late 1960s with the passing of the Fair Housing Act. This attempted to stop redlining, but it didn't do anything to help fix the damage that had been done. Today, those areas suffer from lower employment, higher crime rates, and lower funding towards education. The reason it's important that we focus on this issue as a country is because the disparity between the richest in America and the poor and working class continues to grow. Why is this an economic issue, though? The process by which the government would assist in amending the issue involves raising taxes on those exploiting workers, generally the 1%, to generate money which would be put to use in the form of a workers' program. With 2020 coming to a close, it's so important that our government takes action on helping provide assistance to those that keep the nation moving. The coronavirus has caused vast damage to jobs across the country, notably wreaking havoc in marginalized communities, as can be seen in the graphs below. In response to the 1930s economic depression, former President FDR created a New Deal which came equipped with a variety of government programs to help kickstart the U.S. back to life. One of the programs he created was the Works Progress Administration, which at its peak provided work to up to 40% of Americans. By using some of the money the government would get from the already proposed increased marginal tax rate on the wealthy, they'd be able to launch a similar program today that would provide jobs in marginalized communities. This would help economic growth because it'd give jobs to people that wouldn't normally be able to take as active as a role in the economy. As the community see more growth and employment, it allow for more purchasing power, leading to new businesses and investments taking place. As we can see in the graph on the right, economic growth rate has a positive correlation with job creation. So by implementing jobs in marginalized communities, this brings us closer to full employment as a country, thus growing our economy. Although the question remains, how will we go about doing this? The first step to achieving this is the reallocation of money. The government wouldn't be able to just shift its funding to a project like this because the majority of federal grants to state and local governments goes towards health, and being in the midst of a pandemic, it's not a good time to lower the amount of money going into healthcare. This means new money has to be derived from somewhere else, so passing the necessary tax increases must happen prior to a second works program. The counter question could arise, what if tax increases don't happen? If tax increases don't happen, then the money can just be rearranged from another area and reallocated into a fund used for the federal work program. The assumptions that creating these jobs would cause growth is correct. However, there's always room for error, such as if the tax rates don't increase, or if the works program isn't thought out enough to include potential negative externalities. The jobs cannot just be created, then ignored either. These jobs need to be in sustainable industries that will be long-lasting in order to provide a strong base for rebuilding these communities. I'm confident that my assumptions are correct, because as we've seen historically, a rise in employment means an increase in GDP or economic growth. While a new WPA-like program might not be the only solution to solving inequalities that we see in our country regarding economic growth, we can look into history and see the ways that it's worked, using the best aspects of this to help us today.